to Yale College Voices. This is our kickoff for season 4. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Darice Corey, the host of Yale College Voices. And today I'm honored to be joined by Rachel Fine, the executive director of the Yale Schwarzman Center. So welcome, Rachel. I'm so glad you could be with me today.
Thank you. I'm excited to kick off your 4th season.
Yeah, this is really cool. And you know, what really excites me about having this conversation with you is, and we'll get into it in just a bit, but just to talk about your journey and you know, I think it's something that every student can relate to in terms of blending like their passion along with their, you know, a purpose. And so, yeah, I'm just going to read your bio and then we'll just jump right into having a conversation.
Great. Sounds great.
All right. Awesome. So Rachel Fine joined Yale Schwarzman Center as executive director in October 2022, following her tenure as executive director and CEO of the Los Angeles-based Wallis Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts, which opened in 2013. Between 2015 and 2022, she established the Wallis as a major player and leading cultural organization in Los Angeles' burgeoning art scene. She also built dynamic artistic partnerships and projects between the Wallis and Los Angeles cultural organizations, launched and implemented a $55 million campaign, and steered and managed the Wallis successfully through the pandemic. Also a concert pianist, which I didn't know, Rachel attended the Interlochen Arts Academy, the Music Academy of the West, and Eastman School of Music. She is a graduate of the University of California, Irvine, from which she graduated Phi Beta Kappa and received the Distinguished Alumna Award from UCI's Claire Trevor School of the Arts. Other educational pursuits led her to Yale University, from which she holds a master's degree in music history, and the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., where she was an arts management fellow. Prior to her tenure at the Wallis, Rachel was an executive director of the Los Angeles Chamber Orchestra in 2010 to 2015, and Los Angeles Children's Chorus from 2007 to 2010. Additionally, Rachel has held leadership positions at the DeVos Institute of Arts Management, Aspic Music Festival, Santa Fe ARPA, and the Juilliard School, as well as taught arts administration at the DeVos Institute, USC's Thornton School of Music, and Claremont Graduate University. Rachel is married to Christopher Hawthorne, who teaches courses in journalism, criticism, and urban design at Yale College and the School of Architecture, and writes frequently for distinguished publications, including the New York Times and New Yorker. Rachel and Christopher have 2 daughters and live happily in New Haven, Connecticut. So thank you again for joining me today, Rachel. This is so awesome. And it's so funny because we crossed paths at like a workshop, I think.
I think it was management training.
Yes, it was. And I said, oh my gosh, I have to have her. So, so thank you for joining me. And I guess where I'd love to kind of start, if you don't mind sharing, I'm curious, like, when did you realize you had a love for music? Was that early on in childhood or how did that develop?
Yes, I think my parents probably recognized it first.
Really?
We had an old piano in our house, and I just started figuring things out on my own on the piano. So I think they realized quickly that I had an ear for music at age 4 or 5.
Oh my gosh.
And that I could sound things out. And so they actually are the ones who stuck me in piano lessons when I was 5. And I think from there I developed my own love of piano and music.
Oh, that's amazing. So were you like some folks learn from just hear, being able to hear notes, or were you self-taught or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's a great question because in fact, I had a remarkable teacher. Mm-hmm. And she taught what was called, or what is still called, the Suzuki method. And so I took Suzuki piano, and she I guess she would have called herself a purist because I learned exclusively by ear for the first, I don't know, 5 or 6 years of learning piano. And she, in fact, was not in favor of teaching her students how to read. And so ultimately I switched teachers because I wasn't learning how to read music. But for the first 5 or 6 years, I learned exclusively by ear and by rote.
Wow.
So I might suggest that I have a pretty well-trained ear as a
Yeah.
result. But it definitely hindered me in learning how to read with fluency. So I still struggle with that.
Really?
I think if I had learned, from the outset, I would probably be a better sight reader. But
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah.
What, like, did you find, since you were sort of like music, it sounds like music was sort of ingrained in your childhood. Did you find that kind of carried over into your studies in different ways, or?
Well, I think I gravitated towards learning things like music theory and music history, and seeking out live performance. Again, nurtured very, very much by my parents. But I think what I learned as a pianist, even from an early age, just the discipline and the structure of my practice schedule, all of those things definitely filtered into other areas of learning and growth. But I had a very strict practice schedule.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. I practiced before school, I practiced right after school, and then I practiced after homework. And it pretty much was the same until I graduated from high school.
Oh,
It
my
just got
goodness.
longer.
Really?
Yeah, the
Oh, my
sessions just got
gosh.
longer.
Really?
Yeah.
But did you enjoy it? Like, was it, even though it was kind of a rigid schedule, did you still find that it was something that you loved?
I don't know that I ever loved to practice.
Really?
No. It was always a chore. It was always hard. And I tend to be a very energetic, restless person. So sitting at the piano for long hours by myself was not easy ever. But I loved performing and I loved competing.
Really?
Yes,
Really?
no, I spent almost every weekend performing in a recital or competing in a competition, solo and chamber music. So those were the things that I loved. And of course, that was always the payoff for me
Yeah.
when those things went well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Were there, whether music related or not, were there certain people that just influenced you in this area, or like, who did you recognize as sort of mentors, or I know you mentioned your teacher, but were there
Yes.
certain?
I had different mentors throughout, and I still have mentors. Growing up, I had excellent teachers. I wouldn't say every single one of them was very nurturing, but I remember meeting when I was in high school, I went to a summer program at the University of Pacific, which is in Northern California. And they have, the University of Pacific has its own conservatory and had a summer program that I attended. And I met a teacher there that for me was just everything. His name, he's still alive and well. His name is Frank Weens. And he was a wonderful, wonderful, nurturing person. He was an outstanding teacher. And then on top of it, he was an extraordinary pianist. So to have all of that in one person. And I often had teachers who taught extremely well, but they weren't necessarily performers. But he was a very active performer and player, solo, concertos, chamber music. And he and his wife, too, had a very special duo. She was a wonderful singer. And so I was endlessly inspired by him. He also happened to be very good looking. So that didn't hurt. Like it was the whole thing.
Easy on the eyes.
So I remember, though, that was the first time I was just so inspired by going to my lessons for all of those reasons.
Right, yeah.
And when I was learning a piano concerto, he would play the orchestra part, and that was always very exciting. But I really have had wonderful teachers over the years, both when I was really young. In college, I had a wonderful teacher at Irvine named Nina Skolnick, who I continued to be in very close touch with, and she was an extraordinary mentor. I lived in Vienna for a year, and I studied vocal coaching with a wonderful man named Norman Shetler, who he was an American who spent his professional life in Vienna. He actually just passed away. So I've been very lucky, very, very lucky. I've met remarkable teachers and mentors along the way.
That's amazing. when you mentioned when you attended Interlochen Arts Academy, and then later Eastman and UC Irvine, um, before making it to those milestones, were there like what was your experience like in middle or high school? Like, were there defining moments that sort of set your path into later years?
I think so. I'm sort of reflecting right now on the moment in high school when I knew that it was something I wanted to pursue and that I was passionate about, separate from my parents. And again, there was a pianist at the time in high school, this was the 80s, that I was just infatuated with, named Ivo Pogorelic, from former Yugoslavia. And he had caused such a stir in our industry for a lot of reasons. First of all, he didn't wear, traditional clothing. When I went to go hear him play at Davies Symphony Hall in San Francisco, he was wearing leather pants, and this was just unheard of. But he was also a very eccentric pianist, and he had his own just very distinctive interpretations and ways of doing things. And they didn't, not everyone loved his playing. Not everyone loved his interpretations. So anyway, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was a contender in the Chopin competition, which is one of the great international piano competitions in the world. And a famous pianist who I also love named Martha Argerich was on the jury. And apparently most of the jurors did not want to advance him. She was the one who did. And I guess he didn't end up having, the consensus of the jury to move forward. And Martha Argerich, who continues to be one of the most famous pianists in the world, she walked out. And it caused, the biggest stir in the piano industry, and he was instantly famous. Like the second that she walked out of that competition, he became famous. Anyway, I was infatuated with him. And that moment, I actually was sitting, I think I was a new driver. I was sitting in the car listening to a cassette tape of him playing the Chopin F minor piano concerto. And I just had to pull over as a 16-year-old, and I just was crying. And I knew at that moment, like, this was now my thing, and I loved it. And he ended up coming to town, to San Francisco, and I jumped in the car. I drove from Berkeley to San Francisco on my own. Got my tickets at Davies Symphony Hall, and I still remember the program he played.
Really?
And then I was in Tower Records, was like the big record shop where you got your LPs and cassette tapes at the time. And I owned every single one of his albums, but I noticed they had his poster. They had his poster in Tower Records. And I asked if I could have it, and they gave it to me. So yes, so cool. He ended up being on my wall of my teenage, bedroom until I graduated from high school.
Interesting.
But that was a turning point for sure. And I actually think going to Interlochen too, because everyone around me, I would say I could hold my own. I was good. I knew I was talented, but the talent was off the charts, and I was so inspired by my peers who could play so much better than I could. I did. I went constantly to hear them play, to the concerto competition, and I was just riveted. But I also didn't feel like an anomaly. I didn't. I really, in high school, I mean, there were very few people studying classical music in the way that I was, and I always felt a little bit on the fringe.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm curious, and I'll probably like jump ahead and then jump back, but as you continued through your career, did that sort of feeling about yourself change?
You mean my passion and my pursuit, or?
When you mentioned that your peers had, you viewed their talent, do you feel that you, I don't know, it sounds like, in a way you were like, wow, I wish I could play like them. Did that change over time? Where you felt more?
I think what it actually did was underscore for me that I was never going to have a major career as a pianist. Wow. And that again, I was very good. I was very talented. I worked very hard, but I did not play at the level of an Ivo Pogorelic or Martha
Wow.
Argerich. I was never going to play that well.
Wow.
And when I went to Music Academy of the West and when I went to Eastman, again, I could hold my own. And I probably could have had some kind of varied career where I performed, I accompanied, I played chamber music, and I taught. And I probably could have survived. But I was not going to have a career as a soloist. And actually, just the other day, just a couple of weeks ago, I was watching the Van Cliburn competition on television because they stream it out of Fort Worth, Texas. And again, this is like the Chopin competition. This happens once every 4 years. It's one of the biggest, most prominent piano competitions in the world. There were 2 Yale students who made the finals. And again,
wow.
I was just riveted,
Yeah.
absolutely riveted. I can't tell you how extraordinary these 2 students are. So there were
Really?
6 finalists out of, I don't know how many, maybe 30 candidates made the semifinals.
Oh my
Anyway,
God.
they made it all the way to the finals, and the amount of repertoire that they have to have, ready for this competition, concertos and chamber music and so much solo repertoire. I mean, that in and of itself, I never had that kind of stamina ever. No. So one of them, I think he placed second, if I'm not mistaken.
amazing.
And the other, I mean, just making the finals, just extraordinary. It was so exciting to see Yale students make it that far and for there to be 2. I mean, 2 out of
Yeah.
6. But I, sitting there, I knew like I would never have those opportunities.
Wow.
So I was just being realistic, honest. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm curious, like looking back as you shared that, what was the sort of defining point when you decided to take a different direction in your career? And after you share that, if you could tell me a little more about how you pull that experience into your work at the Schwarzman Center.
Sure. Well, it was decided for me in many respects
Really?
because I started to develop repetitive stress issues in both hands. And that was at Eastman when I was there. And it's very difficult, I think, once you injure your hands as a pianist or, any profession that requires such active and frequent use of your hands. It's very hard to recover. So I actually took a leave of absence. I went through lots of physical therapy and retraining, and it became more and more clear that these kinds of setbacks were just going to make it that much harder for me.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much what determined,
Really?
I would say, my pivoting into something else. And that ended up being music history for a moment,
Oh, wow.
and then arts administration.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Was that a hard, was that a difficult transition when that happened? Was it a really, tough pill to swallow in terms of, okay, this, like you said, it was sort of decided for you, but was it tough to accept?
It was very hard at the time. And I think part of the reason it was hard is because I didn't know what else I was good at. I had trained and trained and trained in one thing since the time that I was 5. And even though there were other things I liked to do, I loved to play tennis.
Yeah.
And I learned how to play relatively well as a child, but the academic year in particular was focused on piano. And inevitably, I went to some kind of music program during the summer. So that, in my opinion, is what made it so hard for me.
Yeah.
Is that I just didn't even know what else was out there. I had lived a relatively isolated life as a pianist, and I didn't know what else I was good at.
Yeah.
And that actually coincided with the death of my father.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So he was really young. And so those 2 things happening at the same time,
Oh my gosh.
I was a bit of a lost soul.
Yeah.
But that's when I ended up at UC Irvine and with a remarkable, nurturing teacher who she did a few things for me. She, first of all, she was expert in working with injured pianists, and that was the reason I
that's
sought
so
her out.
interesting.
Yes, she had a specialty. She was also just a wonderful human being. But she really encouraged me to start teaching. And so while I was retraining and working with her and going to UC Irvine, I taught piano the entire time that I was an undergraduate. So that was my first foray into teaching. And a little bit first foray into figuring out what else I was good at. But Irvine too, Eastman is a very small school. I think the time I was there, and it's in freezing cold Rochester, New York, maybe 900 students.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I knew very little about Irvine when I went there, and it's a major California university, public university. And I'm a curious person, so I just couldn't believe what was suddenly available to me in terms of what I could study, because the coursework at Eastman is, they tell you essentially what you have to take to get your degree, and maybe there was one humanities course a year. There is the option to apply to the University of Rochester and do a double degree, but the music requirements and the performing requirements are very intense. I think the pool of people who do that is pretty small. So anyway, I was like a kid in the candy shop when I first transferred to Irvine, and I didn't even know that there were general education requirements. So I just started taking whatever I wanted. And then I got to my junior year and met with an advisor for the first time who said, well, you forgot to do X, Y, and Z. So then I had to spend a couple summers taking things like intro to sociology and basic requirements that you, I just didn't know you had to take care of those. So that was eye-opening for me. And even though it was painful to go through the injury and the retraining and the death of my father, going to Irvine opened up so many more possibilities for me. And I very slowly started to figure out, I can do this. And I'm actually pretty good at that. I also had the opportunity at Irvine to spend my last year at the University of Vienna. So the UC system has a remarkable, what's called Education Abroad program, EAP. And I didn't even get wind of it until I was, into Irvine a year or two. But the second I found out that I could study abroad, and I'd been taking German, I applied and I went. And that also was life-changing. I had never been, I was, 22 or 23 years old at that point, and I had never been to Europe. And so I was a fellow first in Leipzig, Germany, through what's called the DAAD, which is the Deutsche Akademische Austauschdienst. It's an exchange program foundation. So I went from Leipzig, Germany for 2 or 3 months, then into Vienna. So I was there for more than a year. And that too, I needed something like that just to keep opening up and broadening my world.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So looking back on all of that, I'm curious, and we'll probably get to this later, but it's interesting when you shared that, you had to think about, well, what else am I good at doing? And that's probably scary, right? Because like you said, you'd been doing this for so long since you were little. And then suddenly having to pivot and figure out like, okay, what am I good at? Am I good at, am I good at other things? And, I guess what I'm getting at is maybe sharing with students, because I'm sure many students go through this, similar experiences, and it's scary to think, oh, maybe this is something that, maybe these studies are really not my calling, and okay, but how do I pivot to figure that out and find something that I really love doing? So looking back on those challenges, what I guess lessons do you sort of still carry with you in terms of leadership, and and again, we'll touch on the Schwarzman Center in a little bit.
Well, I try not to lead by fear. I think that is so important, and the people I've worked with over the years who lead with fear and anxiety, it just doesn't go well. So I tend to be an adventurous person. And I would say at that point in my life, I was also naive, which doesn't hurt when you're out there trying to learn new things and explore. But I just don't lead by fear.
Mm-hmm.
I try to keep a very open mind. And I think now, I mean, yes, I now have, 25 years of experience or more, and much more wisdom that it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of confidence and faith, even steering an organization through the Great Recession or the pandemic, that we will find solutions. And, and it's never one person. You obviously have to build a great team, and that team has to have alignment, and there has to be trust on that team, all of those things. But I tend to be a pretty optimistic person who likes adventure. And I love to figure things out. I love to find solutions. And those things have carried me really through my career, and I think carried me through the period where I couldn't think about being a concert pianist anymore, or even having a parent die at an early age, that I look at the glass half full, and I know I'll get on the other side of it. So those were things I had to learn very early on, as a college student.
Yeah, which is, that's tremendous, right? Because it's, I almost look at it as it's like your initiation to being an adult, or as they say, adulting, right?
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little more about, like you said, your experience leading through a pandemic, and like, what were some of your, I don't know, is there an experience that stands out to you, or that stands out in your mind during that time, which was, a really difficult time for everyone? Is there something that stands out in terms of how you led during that time, and were there particular things that you did to sort of keep your team together and keep things going, even though it was just a very traumatic long-term event for everyone? Are there things that kind of stand out to you when you think back to that time?
Many things, many things. It was very hard, and it was hard for a lot of reasons. At the Wallis Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts, the Wallis was actually new, and we had been in operation, I think, about 6 or 7 years at that point. We had just built a solid foundation for the organization. And I don't mean just financially. We had a programming track record that was quite successful at that point. We had developed a base of support, both through our ticket sales and through our philanthropic endeavors. So we had a lot of momentum at that point. And then all of a sudden, and I'll never, ever forget the day that we closed down, because Al Pacino was actually doing a play reading in our venue the night before.
Really?
And I was in a room with our board chair and our finance chair. And it was interesting because our board chair at the time, he was an excellent leader. He was doing a lot of work in China at the time, and he knew what was coming. And it was very contentious with the people sitting around the table, our artistic director and other staff members. No one knew what this was going to look like in the long run. And so, but he kept saying, look, trust me, we have offices in China, and I know what's coming. We need to close down. So we did close down, and that was very, very painful. And how do you communicate that to your patrons and your staff and your board? So I'll never forget that day. It was the right decision. It was a painful and hard decision. And I would say, as a leader, you do have to make painful and hard decisions, and they might not be popular. That was not popular, but it was absolutely the right thing to do. So going back to piano for a moment, because I think training as a pianist has made me a very, obviously I have a lot of creativity, but resourceful, efficient. Like, there are just so many things that you learn through and I wouldn't even say mastering because I never mastered the piano ever, but playing a musical instrument at a high level and training hard. But I always go back to, creativity, resourcefulness, efficiency, which are so important when you're running a nonprofit organization that might be under-resourced. And so I call on those things all the time. And those were the tools that carried me and my organization through the pandemic. You were asking me about the team. Well, we had to downsize our team in the extreme, and that was the most painful thing we had to do. There was no way we could sustain, especially as an organization that was only 6 or 7 years old, but we could not sustain the number of people. We had more than 50 full-time employees, and we had to shut our doors. So we had no ticket income coming in. And I want to talk about the philanthropy separately because that's really where we poured our heart and soul into the relationships that we had built over those many years. And thankfully, our board members and the community remained very generous during the time, and they wanted to make sure that even while we were closed, we would get through this extremely, extremely difficult time. But we also, like many other arts organizations, in terms of calling on our creativity, we came up with ways to either present outside, do creative things outside, and we turned into filmmakers, we had a lot of artists who ended up, we actually had a relationship during that time with the local PBS station, and they agreed to do a series for us during the pandemic. So suddenly, we were filmmakers, we were, we adopted many new skills. But yes, that creativity on the team was so critical in getting us through the pandemic. We even had an online fundraiser that was wildly successful. Really? But again, there was such focus and such attention on keeping our relationships alive and well and communicating really well to the people who were very dedicated and loyal to us. But it was not easy, and there were so many other things at play during that time too, just politically. So it was tough. Wow. It was tough. I don't wish that on to anybody. But having gotten through that, and we reopened. I'm trying to think when we reopened with consistency, sometime in 21, and then I left in October 22, and I wouldn't say we had totally recovered, but we were much further along, and we had a few wonderful successes in 22 before I left.
Oh, that's amazing.
But it was hard.
Yeah. And so, I imagine that going through something like that, and like you said, you had to make decisions that were not easy and not always well received. And I can only imagine how that may carry into your work now at the Schwarzman Center. So now, why don't we pivot towards, now that you're here at Yale, and you started here at Yale, remind me of the year again?
October 22.
22.
Yeah.
And the Schwarzman Center is amazing. So for those who haven't visited, maybe you could tell us more about the Schwarzman Center. Sure. And your work there, and then I have some questions for you. So if you could just tell us all the amazing things about Schwarzman. So
Sure. Well, I could do it for a number of hours.
Great.
Well, maybe we'll start with the building itself. Because the building was a pre-existing building, and the building itself houses what's called Commons. So anyone who went to Yale over the last 100 years knows Commons because it was a dining hall all of those years. And naturally, you've been in there. Everyone thinks it looks like Harry Potter world.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's big. The architecture is stunning. The detail is stunning. So now that building that houses Commons, it's 125,000 square feet, is many things. So we have partners in the building. Yale Hospitality is our biggest partner, but we also partner with what's called the Good Life Center.
Right.
And we are a center of many, many things. But the architecture, I think it extends they repurposed and renovated 4 floors. So starting down in the basement, we have a number of different dining platforms. We have the only sanctioned bar on campus. We have a state-of-the-art dance studio. We have a concession store called the Bow Wow, cafe, late-night grill. We have all these wonderful things down there. But we also have exhibit space. And then you move up to where the rotunda is, and that's where Commons is. And Commons now doubles and triples as many things. So it remains a state-of-the-art dining facility with 4 different dining platforms, from Italian food to Asian food to vegan and vegetarian food to gluten-free options. The food is so good. I can't say enough good things about the food. I really envy the students who get to consider that undergraduate cuisine. But it's also a performance space now. And so all of the infrastructure to support music, theater, dance, all different kinds of performing arts is there. So we often have performing arts offerings in the space. But it's also an event space. It's probably the most in-demand event space for everything from, fundraisers for different departments to the first year. There's a dinner, the traditional first year dinner, the senior masquerade. So it's a very, very active space. And then continuing upstairs is the president's room, which again is used for many different things, multi-purpose, multifaceted. We recently had some chamber music in there, and I can't tell you how good the acoustics are.
Oh, I know.
But also lots of events there. Our dean of Yale College has Dean's Dialogues in there. We actually partnered with Long Wharf Theater, and we had a wonderful play in there based on the work of Joan Didion. And then there's gallery space outside of there. And then if you walk across the balcony of Commons, you head into the Good Life Center, which is our wellness center, a beautiful space for students to retreat, to heal, to rest. There are many different offerings in the wellness center. It's very popular. There's unlimited herbal tea, if anyone is interested. But also many different types of meditation and yoga and therapy. Really wonderful retreat center for students, both undergraduate and graduate students can access that. And then as you continue up onto the top floor, one of my most favorite spaces, which is called the Dome. My understanding is that it used to be the yearbook headquarters. The dome itself was covered up. The floors were carpeted. I don't think it was a very attractive space. And actually what's underneath is extraordinarily beautiful. So our architects, Robert A.M. Stern, it's his firm that did the renovation, repurposing, added the new architecture. The Dome is an extraordinary space. We call it our black box theater, but it actually is round and it's white. And the dome extends, I don't know how many feet. It's just beautiful. The floors, they're wood floors, but they're dance floors, so we can do dance in there. But we think of it, not just multi-use, multi-purpose, but as an incubation space. We are working with a lot of artists in that space to create new work. But again, just going back to the acoustics, we had a string quartet in there last year, Brooklyn Rider, one of my most favorite string quartets, and they did three performances of the entire output of Philip Glass string quartets. And I still can't stop hearing the extraordinary sound they produced in that space. And it's limited to about 100 people. We can have 20 depending on what art we're offering in the space, or we can have up to 100. So we actually, with the artist, get to dictate how many seats, what the seating iterations are. It's very exciting. Right now, we have an amazing installation by a Yale grad, Leo Villarreal, Celestial Garden. And I highly recommend that people come to see it. So right now, it's an exhibition space, and it has a beautiful art installation in there that was... a version of this work had already been introduced in the UK, but he tailored it to our space.
Oh,
So it will be
interesting.
up for the next few weeks.
A few weeks, okay.
Yeah, highly recommend that people come to
Yeah.
see it.
I'll have to come by,
Yes,
definitely.
yes.
Um,
So that's the center in a
that's
nutshell.
it. Yeah.
What I
There's a
would
lot
say
going
though,
on.
well, there's a lot going on.
Mhm.
We have basically 3,000 to 5,000 people coming through every day. Yeah, for a
Yeah.
variety of different things.
Yeah.
Food obviously being the single biggest driver of getting people into the space.
Mhm.
But it's not, you know, I've worked at a lot of different performing arts organizations, and some that, you know, do music, theater, dance, some that have dining facilities. There is no place like the Schwarzman Center anywhere. It is
Really?
singular, yeah. And I think singular in what
Amazing.
it does and what it offers.
Yeah.
One, because it's hospitality, it's arts, it is a wellness center. And I don't know where else you would find those things in one space. But more than anything, I think of it as a community building space for everyone. And that means students, undergrad and graduate, faculty, staff, and members of the New Haven community. And I think if we have any job marketing-wise, it's to make sure the New Haven community knows it's for them as well.
Wow. Yeah.
We also do not charge for our tickets. So everything that we do, there's no
There's no fee
financial
base.
barrier to entry.
Wow.
And it makes it hard sometimes to get a ticket
Yes.
because they
I've tried.
they sell out.
Yes.
We'll get you in there.
Oh,
But I just don't know of any other place like the
Yeah.
Schwarzman Center on earth
really?
that offers all of those things. And I don't want to gloss over the seating either, because I was always attached to venues that had a certain number of fixed seats. And the goal was always to sell that number of seats. So if you had 1,200 seats,
Yeah.
you had to sell 1,200
Right,
seats.
right.
And what I'm finding now is, well, it really depends. And I knew that as well in LA or wherever else I worked. If you had an emerging artist who didn't have a reputation yet, it didn't matter how well you marketed. It did not matter. You were not going to fill those 1,200 seats.
Wow.
Yes, of course, if you have a prominent artist with a huge reputation, you would sell out. But no amount of marketing.
Well,
I don't care how strategic you are. You're not going to sell every single seat if you have an unknown artist with no reputation. So now we get to make those adjustments ourselves. Now, fortunately, I do think not having a ticket price attached helps. People are willing to take risks.
Right,
So if they're not having to throw down $75 to see the artist they don't know, they might come and see that person anyway, which is
Right.
great.
Yeah.
But if we're finding that we're only going to fill, let's say, 75 seats in the dome, then we're only going to put out 75 seats. And it looks full, it feels full. It's a different experience for the artist when they do not see empty seats. And I would say the same is true for the audience. Like, you don't want to sit in a venue with empty seats. The energy is just not the
Not
same.
the same. Yeah.
But anyway, all these things combined, I would say more than anything, we are a community center on the center of campus that is providing a cohesion and continuity that I don't think Yale has ever had.
Wow, that is so amazing and fascinating. So the times that I've visited Schwarzman, I can't even remember. Sometimes I'll walk around and like, I really don't remember what it was like before. Like I remember Commons, but aside from that, it's like it's transformed so much that I honestly have trouble remembering what it was like, before the renovations, and it is an amazing space.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I don't remember either, and I do remember Commons, but that's about it.
Yeah, I remember walking. You walk into the entryway,
The rotunda,
the rotunda. But yeah, I really, the memory of the other rooms and everything, just I guess it didn't stand out as much. And like you said, I mean, it's wonderful that it transformed into that, and I love the idea that it's open for the community.
It is, yes.
And like you said, how do you interact with the community to let them know that it is open, to New Haven and beyond? How do you communicate with the community or
in lots of different ways. And it's not just important to me, it's really important to the entire Schwarzman team that we are part of the greater New Haven arts and culture community. So we do it in many different ways, small and large. I would say at smaller scale, certainly through emails and our website and our social media platforms. So we try to be very active in all three of those arenas. We do advertising in the community. We do a lot of press in the community. So we try to do that as much as we can, and through those press opportunities, make it clear that we are open to the community as well. But we also partner with a lot of the local arts organizations. So we have partnered every year that I've been here with Longworth Theater, with Arts and Ideas Festival, with the Schubert Theater, with Elm Shakespeare. We have lots of community partners that we work with frequently, and we co-present, we co-produce, we mix our audiences. But that's one of the most critical ways that we can, I think, convey to the community that we are a good citizen and a good community partner, but also that the community is welcome into our spaces. Right. We try to be a really good citizen in terms of attending the work of our colleagues. Since I've been here, I think there's only one show at Longworth Theater that I haven't seen.
Oh, wow.
With Arts and Ideas, I try to go as much as I possibly can to everything they offer. It's just such a wonderful, diverse, vibrant festival.
Yes.
But when it opened this summer, we were a major partner with the New Haven Symphony Orchestra and the festival. It was a major free performance out on the green. And also my colleague Jennifer earlier in the summer brought in, it was so great, a circus act for families, called
that.
Cirque Kikas. They're out of Montreal. But Jennifer identified them at a conference in Montreal and brought them to the Green earlier in the summer for families. And that was in conjunction with Arts and Ideas. But we presented it to them. We asked them if they would produce it. And so it ended up being a co-production on the Green for families. And it was so much fun. So we try to do things like that when we can. But it is ongoing work. It's very important work as part of our strategic plan that, again, we have those relationships, forge those, build those bridges.
Yeah.
But our artists, too, love working with community organizations. I don't know of a single artist that comes here.
Right.
And whether they are nationally recognized artists, internationally recognized, they typically want to do work in the community as well. So we have ongoing partnerships with Co-op High School. We do a lot of work there. And it's both at their school, but also many of their students come to our performances and their families. We've worked with ECA. We've worked with Mary Wade. And, those efforts, again, we're still new. We're only 3 years old.
I know.
So, yes, we're just starting to build these relationships. And we'll continue to expand from where we are.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm curious. One question in terms of your team. So, how large is the team that supports all of these efforts?
Well, it's getting bigger.
Really?
So it wasn't that big when I started. We had about 8 or 10 people.
Wow.
Now we have over 20, but we also have, I'm sure you know at Yale, you have lots of partners. So those partners might not be exclusive to my staff, like our general counsel, who I love, and my HR partner, who's wonderful, and our CFO. They all support many different departments, but they are, they certainly increase the size of the team.
Yeah.
So we are getting up to somewhere between 20 and 25. But also depending on the magnitude of a work. So when we do a major work in Commons, and those are our biggest and most elaborate offerings, we might have to bring in many more people on a part-time basis to support that endeavor, because we build a theater in the space, we build a seating bank in the space, and so we sort of expand and contract depending on the magnitude and scope of a performance.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. And in terms of partnering with other departments or units and things like that, um, is there sort of like a criteria that you look for? Is, for example, it's not a space for small meetings, right? It's not a space for small events. But are there, do you have certain criteria in terms of, okay, if I don't know, if the dean's office wanted to hold a talk, or like how do other departments sort of partner with the Schwarzman?
Sure. It's a great question. In many different ways. And again, we have an outstanding production team that, first of all, they're extremely, they're the very best at what they do. And again, these are not conventional spaces. So you can't just assign anyone, even a traditional theater producer, to our spaces because we don't have a traditional proscenium stage, for example. Everything takes on a life of its own. Wow. And that has, it's meant a lot of learning for all of us as we figure out what these spaces can and cannot do, what the technology can do. So anyway, we have a wonderful production team that is very flexible and often very understanding of our artistic vision.
Yes.
But in terms of it's very important for us that we are constantly working with different departments and schools across campus. And again, one of our priorities is to break down silos, but also to do multidisciplinary works. And we don't want to look like any other arts organizations in terms of our artistic intent. And so, we're trying very hard to establish a distinctive programming vision that is nowhere else on campus, or even maybe nowhere else on the East Coast. So, what I would say to other departments and schools, and we've worked with many of them, and we worked for the Center for British Art, and we work with the University Art Gallery, and we work with the School of Music. But we've also worked with, we've dipped, we've had collaborations in neuroscience.
Oh, wow.
No, we try to mix it up. And it happens in a number of ways. It might be my colleague Jennifer or me that is inspired to approach another department or school. She actually brought an opera to the Peabody, and it was called Morning Morning. And that was a really interesting collaboration. They'd never done anything like that in their space.
Amazing.
So we might do something like that. Or my colleagues over at the Whitney Humanities Center, Kajetan and Diane, they approached us because they had a wonderful singer coming in from Africa, and I think they wanted people to have many perspectives on her work. So I think they offered the more humanities-oriented, lectures, talks, and then, of course, we wanted to have her sing. And we are obviously equipped to produce a show. So we had her in our space. So that's how that shaped up. But we also have a film series called Secret Film Society. And that is with Mark Francis. So anyway, we are eager to collaborate. I think what is often preventing us from doing more is just simply space and staff capacity, and of course, finances are.
Yes, especially now. Right?
Yes, exactly. But very eager when colleagues call and want to pitch an idea. That happens not infrequently, but then vice versa. We also reach out to a lot of our colleagues and ask if they want to partner or collaborate with us.
Wow, that is so fascinating. And I can hear from you already, like what you love about your work. Are there other aspects of your job that just, make it interesting every day, or just make you want to get up and come in every day to work at Schwarzman?
There are many things. I think I could list 5 or 6. So one, I just love the building. I love the spaces. I love the architecture. I love the flexibility that we have in those spaces. and the relationships that they enable with the artists in figuring out how to present them in the best light and allow them to do their very best work. So I just love that. I love programming and the relationships we get to that we pursue with artists I've known my entire career and other artists I've never met before. Hugely, hugely exciting. And it's also exciting to invest in new work. I love being a part of a new opera or a new dance piece and watching it evolve and take shape in our spaces and with our team. So that's hugely exciting. I love the food, and I'm just giving a shout out to Yale Hospitality and Chef Dave because it is truly great.
Yes.
It is great food.
Yes.
And sometimes I don't know that the students understand. Like the food that I had in college was, it was abysmal.
Right.
This food could rival any food. It's so good, and there's so much variety, and they take so much time, energy, creativity, and love in the food that is offered. So like at the Well, for example, which is our bar, Wednesday nights is Well Burger night. And it's an amazing burger. Oh, you got to come. You definitely have to come for the Well Burger. And now Thursdays, I love this because they introduced pizza last year for the first time. I'm like, guys, this is New Haven. You can't just introduce pizza.
Yeah, that's a difficult...
No, but the response was, it's not New Haven pizza, it's Detroit pizza. I'm like, okay. And they make their own sausage. The food is very special. Yeah.
Interesting.
Wednesday's Well Burger night, and Thursday is pizza night. We also sometimes try to activate the space, the bar, with music. But all of these things, I feed off the energy of these things. We have an amazing team. Yeah. I love the staff and the fact that not just but we have worked collectively to build and build our team to try to support, I think, a center. No one knew what the demand was going to be on this center, and it has been much greater, I think, than anyone anticipated. Really? Yes. So working at a startup organization and a startup arts organization with unconventional spaces that have, hospitality and wellness partners, that's not for everybody. And when we're hiring, we're very clear, like we're figuring this out together. We're experimenting. You have to be flexible. And if that's not for you, if you need things to be predictable, this is not the right job. This is not the right space. But that makes me love my team even more because we have been in this experiment together for the last 3 years. And some of my colleagues predate me. They were hard at work long before the center ever opened. So I really love the people that I work with. So I could go on and on and on. One of the things that I'm trying to do is give a platform to Yale alums. We've had a lot of extraordinary Yale artist alums in our space. So it gives me so much pride, after they've been out in the world 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that they can come back and perform on our stage. So again, Jennifer, who is a wonderful dancer and choreographer in her own right, brought in an alum, Trodrell Harrell, who's going to be opening the Armory season this year in New York. But he's largely lived abroad and, cultivated his talents and his company abroad. I want to say maybe in Zurich. But he's now, his career is just taking off in the United States. And he did like a 4 or 5 day residency with the Schwarzman Center last year. And it was wonderful. It was memorable. It was moving. And I think for him, too, coming back after he graduated in 1990 and be at his alma mater. And I'll never forget when he came back, we had a welcome dinner for him. We're like, you get to choose the restaurant. Of course, everybody wants to try the pizza or they want to go to one of the high-end restaurants. But no, he wanted to go to Maury's. And so Trodrell and company, and we had a nice welcome dinner at Maury's.
That's amazing.
The alums are, it's wonderful to have them in our midst and on our stages. We have a really interesting alum coming back in March. We're doing our first full-scale opera in March of 26 called The Comet Popea. and it's a mashup of two different composers, an early music composer, Claudio Monteverdi, which goes way back to like the origins of opera, but then George Lewis, who graduated from Yale College in the 70s, very prominent musician, composer, professor at Columbia University. And I don't know, to what degree his work has been performed here. I'm sure it has over the years, but he's only written 2 operas in his life, and so we will be presenting his opera in March. And so we hope to have George Lewis here.
Yes, that's amazing. That sounds so fascinating because it sounds like your days every day is different. It sounds like every day is different.
Yes. There are a lot of ups and downs at a startup. Yes, every day is different.
Yeah, that must be so, but it must be rewarding to just watch it all unfold, like once you decide you're going to hold an event. And so I love to I haven't gone in a while, but I love to go to concerts, and sometimes I like to arrive early just to see the production that goes into what you see during the show. And I imagine
it's behind the curtain.
Yeah, what's behind the curtain. And I'm always fascinated by, like, it's like the teamwork involved, and like you said, people know what they're doing, and maybe it's a specialized space and they have to know what the limits are and all of these things, but it comes together. So that must be fascinating just to watch, something start as an idea and then see it unfold.
It is. It's hugely interesting. It's hugely rewarding. And we're doing things on a very small scale in some respects. And we're also doing things on a very, very large scale. And yes, it's how everything gets made is really fascinating. But I like to believe I'm our biggest cheerleader. I go to everything. Unless I'm sick or there's a family emergency, I like to attend to everything because I want to see what the final result is.
Right.
I want to see our hard work come to fruition. But I often find that I'm so elevated, so energized, and so transformed by what we collectively are presenting. That's the payoff.
Yes,
That is the payoff. And I love being with my colleagues, seeing it unfold. And I love being with the community, seeing it all unfold, and just being a part of that community building, as I said, and that energy. And then often we extend the evening down in the well.
Really?
Or, we love, after some of the really big performances, we really like to extend the evening so that people can come and have a drink afterwards. The artists like to come down and mingle with people. So that's also a joy.
Yeah, that is so cool. Looking back, I mean, if you were to think of yourself, at your younger version of you, what would you have told your younger self, like in terms of the work that you'd be doing now compared to what you thought you would be doing at a younger age?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, I don't frankly know that I would necessarily end up in this field. I'm glad that I did. I love it. And, once I discovered it, my first full-time job in my late 20s was with the organization Chanticleer. They actually have performed at Yale, thanks to the Glee Club. And I knew, I loved being with the team. I loved being with an office environment. There were so many things that I appreciated about it, and I never looked back. But if I hadn't been a pianist and I had been, I don't know, right now I'm watching the U.S. Open.
Yes.
And I love tennis. And of course, I think about, gosh, what if I had been on the tennis team and played in college and like I'm the right height?
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know where I would be if I had had a very different path.
Right.
So again, I'm a very curious person, and I do wish as a child that I had not been so isolated doing one thing. But I don't really have regrets.
Yeah, no regrets.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
But now, again, when I went to Irvine, just making those discoveries for the first time, taking classes I'd never taken before, it was very exciting, very enriching, very educational, kind of exhilarating.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so when you think about your work at Schwarzman and students, right? and they frequently use the space for various things. When you think about all of the things that you shared with me today in terms of like your leadership journey and experiences and all of these things you love about the community in Schwarzman, what kind of advice would you give a student if they, well, from two perspectives, like a student who may experience sort of a moment where they need to pivot, and maybe a student who could be interested in this kind of work or this field?
Sure.
What kind of advice would you give?
I have all kinds of advice. One thing I would think long and hard about, we are told frequently that it's impossible to make a good living in the arts, and that you're headed towards, precarious life financially. Well, I was just browsing around on Instagram the other day, and they listed the top 5 salaries of the highest paid arts administrators in the country, and they're making well over $1 million a year. So I do think there are stable,
Yes.
stable tracks in the arts. And yes, it might be hard to be the person who ultimately has that position, but there's you can maybe make $500,000 instead of $1 million. And, part of the reason I tell you this is because I think our field needs really good, dedicated, loyal talent. It's a great field, and I don't see the opportunities, especially in leadership, shrinking. I think there are many, many wonderful leadership opportunities out there, whether it's dance or theater or music, and there aren't enough people to fill them. So I just, I think we're told from the time we're, 8 years old, you can't. The arts are totally unstable. You can't have a career in the arts, and it can be hard, but there are paths that are much more stable and much more lucrative. So that's something that I would tell a student, like there are stable opportunities out there. I guess the other thing is really just to keep an open mind, to, be as flexible as you can and not be afraid of things like change. So it really, really important as you're exploring, what you might want to do with your life or what courses you want to take. But I think those are, important things to, have in your bag of goodies.
Yes, definitely. Wow. See, we already filled up an hour. But I guess one question I'm curious about, do you still play?
I do.
You do?
I do. Yes, I do play. I certainly don't play with the same intensity or rigor or pizzazz that I sometimes I look at the videos of my playing from high school, and I sort of can't believe that it's me, because I don't think I could ever attain that level again. But I do play, and I enjoy playing when I have the time to practice. But I think one of the greatest gifts my parents ever gave me was the piano that I have.
Wow.
Yes, and I have taken it with me wherever I've gone. It's a beautiful, beautiful piano.
Really?
Yes, and I have to thank Eric Deal, who is the piano technician for the School of Music. He also tunes my piano.
That's awesome.
And he's fantastic. Right? Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do your kids play as well?
My older daughter, who actually is a senior at Yale.
Oh.
They both study music. She studied cello for many, many years. And then and also a singer. So she's been in the Glee Club the last few years. But her main thing actually is composition, music composition. But she has. I could not be more delighted that she chose to go to Yale and get a liberal arts education, because she's exploring many different things, and she's also an architecture major and loves graphic design.
That's amazing.
So this is her time to explore and figure all those things out. But she does have a solid background in music, and then our younger daughter also sings in choirs and has studied piano. They both love music. I mean, just fundamentally. there's hardly ever a time where there's not music playing. And they both like to go hear live music. It's funny because my younger daughter recently asked me, she's like, Mom, do you know Toads? I'm like, do I know Toads?
Yeah.
Yes, I know Toads.
Yes.
And actually, when I was a grad student, I
Yes.
went to Toads not infrequently. And she's like, well, did you know that there are nights when you can go? You don't have to be 18. I'm like, I did. I did. And not that she's going to want me going with her, but
Right.
pretty soon she might be out there exploring Toads.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
What do you have a favorite music outside of like classical or the music that you've played before? Do you have a
I
favorite?
love so many different
Really?
types of music. Yeah. So when I was in high school, I was deeply interested in the Smiths, probably still my favorite band to this day.
Really?
The Smiths, The Cure, Depeche Mode. I'm trying to think of all of the bands that I actually went to see.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Berkeley, and UC Berkeley has an incredible
Yes.
outdoor amphitheater called the Greek Theater.
Wow.
And so I often was
Went-
at the Greek Theater
yeah.
seeing various things. I saw Elvis Costello. I saw the
Wow.
Eurythmics. Yeah. So,
Oh, that's so
no,
cool.
all of those bands I
Yeah.
still love,
Yeah.
and I still listen to Psychedelic Furs. But I think among my most favorite living musicians right now is a mandolin player named Chris Thiele. And to me, he's the consummate 21st century musician because he can do anything. He plays in two different bluegrass bands. One is called Nickel Creek, and I saw Nickel Creek down at the Music Hall.
Oh,
And the
interesting.
Punch Brothers. But he's just an extraordinary classical musician too. And if I could recommend any recording, it's his recording of the Bach cello suites on mandolin. But MacArthur genius, like so versatile. But I just so much admiration that he can ease in and out of these different genres and no matter what, play at just the highest level. Plus he's funny.
Yeah.
He took over for Garrison Keillor on Prairie Home Companion at one point, and I think in the pandemic the show fell by the wayside. But yeah, very multi-talented guy. But I really love all different kinds of music. I really do. And I'll give a little shout out to my daughter's boyfriend is now the music director or co-music director of Tangled Up in Blue, which is the folk, the undergraduate folk group. And so I've become, probably they're embarrassed, but I've become a total groupie.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
love, I guess they call it twib.
Yeah.
Love twib.
That's awesome. I have other questions for you, but I realize that we're
at time.
almost at time.
Yeah.
So, thinking about all of these things that you shared, and what brings you joy, in your work here. And I guess what do you want to leave off? What do you want to leave with our listeners in terms of whether it's your work at the Schwarzman Center, or the Schwarzman Center itself, or just being here at Yale and what obviously you love your job, which is it's a luxury, right? It's something that not everyone has that luxury, and I'm fortunate enough to even just be able to hold this podcast and chat with you. So I'm just curious, what would you leave with our listeners?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Honestly. And yes, I love my job. It is a real privilege to have my job. I never stop thinking about the fact that we're able to offer what we produce, what we present for free. It's so unusual. And I hope the people who have the opportunity to hear our performances or take advantage of even, the cooking classes in the Schwarzman Center. Anything that we do in the Schwarzman Center. Yes, Yale Hospitality.
What?
They do everything from cooking classes to olive oil tastings to wine
Really?
tastings. Yes.
How am I missing that? Wait.
Yes. No, write that down. Yes.
know
Keep your
that.
eye on those
Yes.
things. So yes, I love my job. And again, it's a real privilege. But I also want to add that I spent 25 years before coming to Yale mostly at small and mid-sized, somewhat under-resourced arts organizations. I'll never take any of those experiences away. I learned a tremendous amount from every single job that I had, whether I was a development associate or an executive director. But I will say, I feel so well taken care of as an employee at Yale. And I really don't take any of the benefits that I receive for granted because I've never had them before. So yes, I might have had medical insurance, but it was nothing like Yale Health.
Nothing.
Go Yale Health.
Yes, I agreed.
No, truly. And now I'm at an age where anything could happen in terms of your health, and knowing that I'm going to be well taken care of is not insignificant.
Exactly.
So I know the staff at the Schwarzman Center, I'm like a broken record, but I talk a lot about how fortunate we are to have the support and have the benefits that we have. So being an employee.
Yes,
but the last thing I would add, because it actually takes me back to where I met you.
Oh, yes.
So the management training that we needed to do, well, I remember many times in my previous jobs, especially at the really small organizations, where I would have to apply for a grant or just raise the money to bring an outside consultant in to help us build culture or, do a strategic plan or whatever it is that the organization needed to thrive. But it was a lot of work to get to that point where we had the resources to be able to, either have that facilitation or have that advice or guidance. And, whether it's Yale Learning or, any other part of the HR department where we can pick up the phone and have an expert. I mean, I'm just thinking about Travis Holyfield, who I've worked with a number of times now, who helped do our behavior study.
Yeah, he's amazing.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And we had a whole staff retreat that he facilitated. So that for me is very rare, where we have a resource around the corner where an incredibly gifted, teacher and facilitator can come and work with your team. And suddenly your culture is a little bit stronger.
Yes.
So I don't take those things for granted.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I think I'm so glad you mentioned that because I think for folks who are new to Yale they may not realize that you have that access, right? That you can reach out and gain access to someone, a knowledgeable professional in whatever area that you're looking for. And because you may be sort of shy to do that. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. And then number two, it's, sometimes I've been at Yale for, this is my 18th year.
Oh, wow.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. And, sometimes, colleagues outside of Yale, they can't figure out why. But same, I'm like, Yale took care of me, especially at times when I really needed it, and I've been in other places where it's not like that.
Right.
It's different.
Right.
It's very different here. And I'm so glad you said that because it is an amazing place to work. And I find, I don't know, I feel so lucky to be able to do a podcast that, the dean's office is supportive of this, and I get to talk to people like you. So
no, I didn't know that there's a broadcast center.
Yes, there's
we walk around the corner and there's a broadcast center.
Yes, with amazing staff here who, and that when you asked about like how did we start this podcast, and initially I thought, I'll get some cameras and have students help me, and that's a lot of work. And I'm not an expert with mixing and all of that. And then when I came to the broadcast center and met Ryan, who's doing our producing right now, I was just like, oh, that's it. Like, that's what I need because, I want the professional to handle it. And they've been amazing. So just having access to these kinds of resources.
Absolutely. Well, my next job is to learn about AI.
Yeah. You came to the right place.
Yes, I need to. Yes,
yeah.
I'm far behind, and
I'm going to be. I'll do a shameless plug because I'm going to be holding workshops for our staff.
Okay, sign me
AI.
up.
Yes, I'll make sure you get the email.
So, please do. Please do.
Because we're at a point, and I know of going off topic, but I really am trying to pull students into the, building a prototype of something that will help staff and students. And,
Yes.
and I'm really excited about it because I'm like, okay, I can't wait to help staff learn more and maybe not feel hesitant about using AI,
Okay.
and
Well, truly sign me up
yeah.
because it's a little intimidating.
It can be, right? It can be. And it is because it changes every day.
Yeah.
And for me in IT, that's fascinating.
Right.
But it can be scary too,
Yes.
and I'm excited about that. So I'll make sure I sign you up.
Thank you. Please sign me up. I think ignoring it is not going to
Yeah.
get me anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And I even in my mind, as you were sharing, your background and your story, I started thinking about, oh my gosh, how could this help arts? Because, well, I'll tell you a little secret. What we're trying to work on is building a tool that allows students to explore a journey, right? Like at not just their academic journey at Yale, but also if you have an interest in arts, or maybe you're a math major, but you still have an interest in, I don't know, architecture, or you have, other things that you'd like to get involved in at Yale, whether it's the student organizations or clubs or, arts. And what I'd love to see is for a student to be able to, share these interests, share, here are some things that I really am interested in exploring, and for a tool to help figure out all the resources and maybe connect opportunities that they didn't think of before. That, for example, I had a guest on the podcast from Yale Farm, and Jackie Munoz shared that she had a student, and I apologize if I get this story wrong, Jackie, but she had a student who had an interest in indigenous farming, and the student happened to have seeds, I believe, that produced a particular type of ink that is used.
Oh, wow.
And they reached out to Yale Farm to find out if they could grow the seeds on the farm, and it turned into a whole research project.
Oh, amazing.
And,
Wow.
who would think
Who knew?
that you could do something like
Right.
that? So again, that's, I guess, my, where I would like to see AI go
Yes.
in the college, but we'll get there. But yes, I will make sure I sign you up for the
Great.
training.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Rachel, this was so fun chatting
Thank
with
you.
you
It
because
was.
the Schwarzman Center it's amazing. I don't go often enough.
Well, I'm happy to save you a seat.
Yes, I appreciate that, and it was just so awesome just to get to know you
Likewise.
and hear more about your background, because I didn't even realize that that you're a pianist, and
That's where it all started.
yeah, and that's so amazing. So I'll have to ask you about lessons. No, I'm kidding, but
Well, I need to find my own teacher,
Yeah.
actually. Yes, I would like to actually set that
to
as a
kind of
goal.
revisit.
Yes,
Really?
yes. Oh, yes.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Interesting. So yeah, that's actually, I wasn't kidding about the about the lessons. My son has an interest in playing piano, and
Oh,
he
good.
kind of started out in a similar way, like just playing by ear, and
Well, I'm happy to share any and all research.
thank
Discoveries.
you. That's so awesome. So Rachel, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
It was awesome just joining you today. And for those who are listening, as you know, we're on all the major platforms anyway, on Spotify, Apple, and SoundCloud, and also on YouTube. That's where the recording will be.
Excellent.
And please like, share, and follow. And we'll wrap it up for today. So thank you so much.
Thank you
Rachel.
too. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.